In every culture, there are urban legends. What is an urban legend? An urban legend is a story that has been transmitted throughout the generations, and the story has been altered here and there, but the story is controversial. Different from a myth, an urban legend is a disturbing story that people really don't want to remember. And to cover up the fact that it's a story that people don't want to remember, they make up additional facts that are way out of line to discredit the story. So let me give an explanation. Let's say that there was this Spanish territory that was loyal to the King of Spain, but the people turned on each other when it came to reforms. And they ruined the whole Spanish economy over there. And a few generations later, they had to explain this violence to the present society, but people were too embarrassed to do it. So they came up with this interpretation that the people were upset, and that's why they cried out for independence. So that's a myth. Why? Because the facts are true, but the conclusion that's made in relation to those facts is not true. So that's a myth. But let's say now that there was this town where many children were kidnapped, raped, and killed by pagans. And the people around knew about it, but they just didn't want to be bothered. And let's say now that news of this spread throughout the country, and everyone in the society was embarrassed that there were such cowards living amongst them, that those cowards allowed children to be killed like that. So then there was this escalation that happened in that society because people didn't want to deal with the situation, but they had to deal with it because there were survivors. Some tried to kill the survivors, and even that came out, so it became an additional embarrassment. So there were people that began to say things like, well, maybe it was a big monster that killed all those children. And then people begin to think, big monster, what are you talking about, man? So by adding this ridiculous fact that can obviously be disproven, they discredit the history in the ears of those who hear it. Because if people hear about children being killed like that in a city, and you tell them it's a big monster, people say automatically, well, that's fiction. They will throw it away. And by doing that, they would also not look further into the story because they think it's just a fable anyway. Even though those two children were really killed, but it was a cult that did it. But then if you tell them that it was a cult that killed those children, the people will ask, but how can a cult kidnap so many children? Nobody knows it. Then people are going to ask more questions, then the ugly truth would be revealed. Well, ugly truth, the truth is not ugly, but you get what I'm saying. The ugly facts will be revealed. I'm correcting myself. The truth is never ugly. It's the facts that can be ugly. So people don't want to remember this embarrassing or traumatic fact that happened in history, so they cover it up with nonsensical explanations, and that becomes an urban legend. And urban legends are our heritage to the culture. Those stories are told to children, they're told to adults, and people laugh at those stories. Those are stories you tell your friends and your children, or you tell people at campfire. Why? Because those stories contain a hidden threat. Every urban legend contains a threat. When it comes to a myth, you want to avoid something from the past that you better don't want to explain because you really can't explain it. But if you want to avoid it and at the same time make use of it, you turn into a myth. When it's something you want to avoid completely because there is no way you can make a good interpretation of it, then you turn it into an urban legend. And an urban legend contains the threat, don't look into it. When someone comes to you and they tell you that there is this big monster in the woods that's killing children, then there is a disturbing fact, children being killed, but you hear about this big monster. But then you ask, how does this big monster look like? They give you this, a mythical description. And then as a believer who is learned about spiritual stuff, you think, okay, either it's a Nephilim or some other demonic entity, or there's something else behind it. Well, most people lack spiritual knowledge of spiritual history anyway, so they automatically turn away from it and think, oh, it's just a fable. Why? Because an urban legend conditions you not to look beyond. It conditions you not to think. And every time you decide, you know what, let me look into this urban legend, you're made ridiculous by other people. So that is a threat. Don't look into it. With a myth, you can look into it, people can discuss it and have all their opinions. But with an urban legend, you're not allowed to look into it, because once the facts come out, people have to process it, and they don't want to process it. Now, in general, myths and urban legends are similar, because both cover up something from the past that people don't want to deal with. But with a myth, you at least can give a good twist to the story if you tell it in a certain way. But with an urban legend, there is no possible way of you justifying or whitewashing what happened. So, for us believers, we need to recognize urban legends when we hear them. An urban legend is not always some story of some weird monster killing people. An urban legend can also be a concept or a statement that people hold high. For example, this concept called privacy is something people hold high. You ask them what privacy is, they often can't explain, but it comes down to the following. It's about them having control who knows things about them. Now think about it. They want to know who they are dealing with. So they want to know things about you, but they don't want you to know things about them. So they want an unfair advantage over you just so they can be ahead of you. So this whole concept of privacy is narcissistic. But to admit this, people have to admit that they're narcissistic or they won't go there. They'll become upset. They'll fight. They'll become violent towards you when you point this out. So this concept called privacy is something that's made up by the governments, and commoners embrace it because commoners crave control. But I think privacy itself, it doesn't exist. Let me say this, you have the physical world, that's the earth, and you have the spirit world. Now, in the spirit world, there are no walls and there are no doors. So spirit beings, let's say evil spirits out here, they see houses and walls, but they can see right through them. Evil spirits can just move through physical barriers just like that. So if you have an apartment, if you have a flat complex, and on the 5th floor there are people having sex, on the 9th floor there are people being active with hiding drugs, evil spirits can walk through the walls and see everything happening. They even sense it with their senses. So privacy does not exist. You can hide information from other human beings by using physical means or by using threats of violence so people won't look into something, but that's just a tool. But privacy itself is not a real thing. Privacy is an urban legend. And here's why the urban legend is so dangerous. Because people will invest in something that's not existent. When you invest in something that does not exist, you'll end up being trapped. So privacy is an urban legend. Let's go further. This whole idea of personal space which relates to privacy is also an urban legend. This thing called free will is also an urban legend, which suggests that people can just choose and want whatever they want and will. We just have to find a way to honor it and give into it. No. Nobody has the right to be evil, and nobody has the free option to choose and to will whatever they want. God never granted that to anyone. And even the governments of this world does not grant you the quote-unquote permission to will and want whatever you want. No! It does not exist, and it cannot possibly work. Human beings are community creatures. So, for us to be healthy, There must be some social conditions that guarantee our safety. So that alone excludes the whole idea of free will. But a lot of people, they are invested in this idea called free will. And let me tell you, it's an urban legend. It's not real. I'm not going to mention all urban legends because there are way too many. Just understand the following. An urban legend is a twist to an history that people don't want to face. So they make this history look so ridiculous that you're discouraged from looking into it. And when it comes to concepts that are urban legends, they protect those concepts with violence. When you question whether or not privacy is real, people begin to suggest that you want to invade their home or whatever. They're going to project all kinds of bad intentions to you. Some people may even threaten you that if you would look into their things, they would kill you or whatever. They'll begin to threaten you because they feel threatened, because you don't give in to their toxic restrictions. So it's violence that keeps narcissistic concepts real. The moment you're able to shut down the violence, you'll see those narcissistic concepts for what they are, narcissistic concepts. And that's why the world hates believers, because we have the power from the Holy Spirit to shut down violence. And because we're able to do that, we can live free without the toxic restrictions of society. Because the toxic restrictions of society, they need a justification that ain't there. But still, they need to have some story to justify those restrictions. And those stories are urban legends. An urban legend is a false explanation of an history that people protect with violence. You're not allowed to question it. The moment you question it, people turn on you. Nevertheless, as believers, we must face the urban legends we were told, and we must unlearn them so we're not trapped by them. Another thing about urban legends is that the moment you refuse to subscribe to them, people will punish you by neglecting you. You don't exist. They don't want to be bothered by you. Suddenly your existence bothers them. Because urban legends contain a hidden threat. Don't look beyond, don't ask any questions, just comply or else. So, believers, are you investing in urban legends? Be at peace.